Hi, I'm Paul Stradowski, President of HR Partners. This video is part of a series of management principles that I've learned over the years during my corporate career as a human resource executive and then as founder and president of the consulting firm HR Partners. These principles form the foundation of the processes I teach to improve corporate performance. The first principle that I'd like to talk about is that employees know more about their jobs than anyone else, and therefore know best how to focus their efforts to achieve results. I learned that lesson the hard way. When I first went to work after getting my master's degree from Cornell just a few years ago, I went to work for the Dow Chemical Company in Midland, Michigan at their headquarters. I chose that company because they had what they called a special assignments program, which was a rotational program for new HR representatives working in various areas of human resources. I worked in college recruiting, benefits administration, hourly employment over the course of 9 months. One of the assignments I had was to do a study of the Dow Chemical early retirement plan. How is it working? What were the ratings of the employees that were taking early retirement? Were they losing skills? Were they losing top performers? When I completed that study, which took a couple months, I was then asked to give a presentation to the board of directors of Dow. There I was at age 23 on a big stage with spotlight shining on me, shaking in my boots, getting ready to make a presentation for a board with a company of 50,000 employees at age 23. Fortunately, the senior mentor of the special assignments program came over to me and said, "I see you're a little nervous." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, just remember one thing. You did the study. You know more about it than anybody else." And that got me through. I did a pretty good job. I was then asked to give that same presentation to 5 other operating teams, divisions within the company. Then I was given the opportunity to interview for my first line job as assistant HR manager at a 500-employee plant in Fresno, California that made polyethylene film. I interviewed with the plant manager, and he asked me, "Paul, how would you get started? What would you propose doing?" I said, "Well, since I'm going to be doing all of the hiring for the plant, why don't you hire me unannounced as a regular hourly employee? Let me work in the plant for a month or so to get to know all of the jobs." And he said, "Wow, an HR person who wants to work." He offered me the job on the spot. So I moved my family from Midland, Michigan to Fresno, California, going from 40 degrees below zero to 120 degrees in 2 months. I then figured I could transfer anywhere on earth. So I went to see the plant manager on my first day, and he said, "Okay, you're starting on the midnight shift." Oops, the first potential glitch. I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, that's where we start everybody." So I reported to the plant, knocked on the door at midnight, and the shift supervisor came over and said, "Oh, you must be the new guy." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, let me take you to your workstation. It's called the end of the belt job." And he said, "What you do here is the plant produces polyethylene film, and the rolls come down the conveyor belt to you. You fill out the shipping labels with all of the information that's necessary for the order. The company name, the type of film, and put it on the scale at the end of the belt, weigh it, fill in the weight, and then pick it up and put it on the pallet right next to you. When the pallets fall, a forklift will come and take it off to the warehouse." Well, that was my training program. about 40 seconds. So all of a sudden, bzzz, the buzzer goes off, and these rolls start coming down the conveyor belt. Now, some of you might remember the famous I Love Lucy episode where Lucy and Ethel are working in a candy factory, packaging chocolate bonbons into boxes at the end of a conveyor belt. Well, the conveyor belt starts speeding up while they're working, and it gets to go faster than they can handle. And of course, chaos ensues. They're taking the bonbons, eating them, stuffing them in their shirts, anything to keep them from falling to the ground. Well, it's a very funny episode. Now, picture that, but instead of bonbons, 200-pound rolls of film. I never worked so hard in my life. Scrambling around, filling out the paperwork, picking up the rolls as they came down, putting them on the scale, then picking them up and putting them on the pallet. Well, I was so sore when I got home. I told my wife, I've had some pretty stupid ideas in my life, but this one is right at the top of the list. Since I'm Polish, it's okay to say we refer to those as Polish moments. I barely could get out of bed the next morning. I was 23 years old, 145 pounds, in pretty good shape. Every muscle in my body ached. I pulled myself together and got into work the next day at midnight. The shift supervisor let me in and said, "Wow, you're back." Most of them don't come back. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, we test the employees on their first day at work to see if they truly want to work. We don't want to hire them and spend a lot of time and money training them and have them then quit in a month or two. What we did was shift all of the rolls from both belts, both parts of the plant, onto your belt. So you basically did the whole output of the plant, double the normal work. Since you're back, I'll take you down now and introduce you to George, the guy on the other end of the belt job who is experienced." And the supervisor said, "He'll give you a couple tips." Well, George came over and said, "Boy, it was really funny watching you scramble around like a crazy man yesterday." I said, "Yeah, well, it wasn't that fun for me." Anyway, he said, "Let me give you a couple tips to make the job easier." He said, "First, the paperwork. There's a shipping report on your desk that lists the entire orders for the day. What you do is fill out the needed shipping labels with the number of rolls that are planned to be produced. You can fill in all of the information, the name of the company, the type of roll, everything except the weight. So the only thing you need to fill out at the very end on the scale is when you get the weight." Well, that made all of the paperwork problems much simpler. Then he said, "I noticed you're lifting all those rolls. Let me show you. You don't need to do that. Take the rolls when they come off the scale, bump them with your knee, and just slide them onto the pallet. That way you don't have to lift them." Well, that took all of the physical labor out of the job. 2 simple tips taught me the very important lesson that the employee doing the job knows more about it than anybody else. Now, I had my master's degree. I was fairly smart. It would have taken me months to figure that out. So that's how I learned that very important lesson. Thank you.